Billionaire father forgets to pick up the twins from the school party, sees the cleaning lady hugging them, and what happens next is incredible. The meeting was supposed to end at 3 in the afternoon. Harrison Cole glanced at the watch on his wrist, the Rolex he'd gotten from his last closed deal, and felt his stomach tighten. 7:15 at night. The girls had a birthday party at 4. Mr. Cole, about the Chicago contract. The lawyer's voice echoed through the conference room, but Harrison wasn't listening anymore. Through the glass wall, he could see the city lighting up. Down below, people were leaving their offices, heading home, having dinner with their families. He should be at home too. "We can continue this tomorrow," he said, rising from the leather chair. "I need to go." The 5 men around the table exchanged glances. Harrison Cole never left a meeting before it was over. He never left a contract half finished. But today was different. Today, June and Hazel were turning 5. The elevator descended 40 floors in silence. Harrison was punching buttons on his phone, calling home. Ring, 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 nothing. The BMW's tires screeched on the asphalt as it left the parking garage. In traffic, Harrison drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. Red, green, red again. The city seemed to be conspiring against him. When he finally pulled into the mansion's garage, everything was too quiet. The front door opened without a sound. Harrison stepped into the marble foyer and stopped. Where was everyone? Where were the screams, the laughter, the sound of children running? Where was the party? Pink and purple balloons hung from the living room ceiling. A long table was set with colorful plates, cups with straws, and a 2-tiered cake, a golden unicorn on top, surrounded by sugar flowers. The candles had already been blown out. Harrison felt a cold chill run down his spine. "June? Hazel?" he called out, his voice echoing through the empty house. No answer. He took the stairs 2 at a time. The second-floor hallway was dark. The door to the girls' room was slightly ajar, and a soft light spilled through the crack. Harrison pushed the door open slowly. The first thing he saw was blonde hair spread over a woman's shoulder, 2 little heads resting on the chest of a woman sitting in the reading armchair. June and Hazel were fast asleep, still wearing their party dresses, one pink and the other lilac, hugging each other even in the woman's lap. The woman holding them was young, maybe 25, brown hair tied back in a simple ponytail, a calm, makeup-free face. She wasn't wearing a uniform, just jeans and a white blouse. Harrison recognized her. It was the new cleaning lady. Tessa something. She looked up when she saw him standing in the doorway. She didn't say anything, just gestured with her head. Silence. They're sleeping. How did they get home? Harrison whispered, the reality hitting him like a slap. Tessa looked at him with an expression he couldn't decipher. "I picked them up from school," she said softly. "You?" "Someone had to." Harrison's world stopped. The party, the girls waiting. He had completely forgotten. "I forgot to pick them up." His voice came out louder than it should have. Tessa gestured for silence again, but Harrison could barely breathe. "They were alone and cold," Tessa said in an even lower voice, adjusting the girls in her lap. They waited at the school gate for over an hour. The teacher was about to call the police. The words hit Harrison like punches to the gut. June stirred in her sleep, tightening her arm around Hazel's neck, who in turn snuggled closer to Tessa's chest. Harrison swallowed hard. "I was in a meeting and—" "You don't have to explain," Tessa murmured. "So they're okay now." Harrison looked at his daughters, their messy blonde hair, their faces relaxed in sleep, holding each other as if they were the only safety in the world, and maybe they were. "How was the party?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "They waited for you to arrive." "They asked for Daddy about 10 times. Tessa shifted carefully, trying to stand up without waking the girls. "When they saw it was getting late, they asked me to save a big piece of cake for you." June mumbled something in her sleep, and Tessa froze. "They made up a song," she continued. "They sang about wanting Daddy to get here soon to sing happy birthday with them." Harrison felt his chest tighten. Tessa managed to stand up, carrying both of them. It was impressive how she could hold both without any apparent effort. The girls remained embraced even in their sleep, their little arms intertwined. She walked to the bunk bed and placed June on the bottom, Hazel on the top, but they didn't want to be separated. "No, June," Hazel murmured, still with her eyes closed, reaching her hand out to her sister. "I'm here," June replied, also sleeping. Holding her sister's hand through the bed rails, Tessa took off their little shoes, covered them with the fluffy blankets. The girls' hands remained clasped. June opened her eyes for a second. "Daddy!" "I'm here, sweetie." Harrison moved closer, kissed her forehead. "I'm sorry I was late." "It's okay," she murmured. "Tessa took care of us." Harrison looked at Tessa, who was putting the shoes away in the closet. "You stayed with them the whole time, ever since I picked them up from school. And the party? They had fun. They sang happy birthday to the unicorn, ate cake, played with their friends." Tessa closed the closet. "But they asked about you until the very end." They left the room in silence. In the hallway, Tessa stopped. "Mr. Cole, can I say something?" Harrison nodded, though he didn't want to hear anything else. "They keep all the drawings they make at school. There's a full folder under June's bed. They're waiting to show them to you." "I'll look at them," he promised. "And when they got home, they ran to your office. They thought you were in there." Harrison remembered the empty office, the desk piled with papers, the chair where he spent more time than anywhere else in the house. "Is there anything else?" he asked. Tessa hesitated. At school, they told their teacher that their daddy was going to take them on a trip. To the zoo again. Harrison remembered. He had promised that months ago. "Tessa, you don't need to explain anything, Mr. Cole. I know work is important." She went downstairs, picked up her bag from the living room sofa. Harrison followed her. "How much do I owe you? For the whole day, for picking them up, for the extra hours?" "You don't need to pay me extra. I'm fond of them." At the door, Tessa turned one last time. "Mr. Cole, they were worried you wouldn't like the cake. They said they chose the unicorn because they knew Daddy would think it was pretty." The door closed. Harrison stood in the foyer, listening to the silence of the house. The same silence as always, only tonight it felt different, heavier. He went back to the living room where the party had happened. The little plates were washed and stacked. The balloons gathered in a corner. The cake was on the table, untouched, with a note stuck to it. "For Daddy, happy birthday to us, June and Hazel." The handwriting was crooked, that of a 5-year-old. There were hearts drawn on the edges. Harrison sat on the sofa, the note in his hand. For the first time in a long time, he couldn't think about any contracts, any meetings, any projects. All he could think about were the 2 little girls sleeping upstairs, holding on to each other because it was the only security they had. The 2 little girls who had waited at the school gate until someone, a stranger, came to pick them up. He had forgotten his own daughters. Again. Harrison rested his head in his hands. How had he gotten to this point? When had he stopped being a father to become just the man who paid the bills? When had the girls stopped trusting that he would show up and started clinging to each other for protection? The worst part was how natural Tessa was, the way she had held them both, how she had handled everything, how she had spoken about the girls, as if taking care of them was the most natural thing in the world, and it should be for him too. Harrison went upstairs again, stopping at the door of his daughter's room. June had turned in her bed, but her hand still held Hazel's through the bunk bed rails. The 2 slept holding each other, even while separated, seeking in one another the comfort they couldn't find anywhere else. They looked so small, so alone. And he was missing every single day of their lives. The guilt Harrison felt at that moment was unlike anything he had ever experienced. It wasn't the guilt of a business deal gone wrong or a missed deadline. It was the guilt of a father who had failed so fundamentally that his daughters had to seek safety in each other and in the kindness of a stranger. And for the first time, Harrison Cole wondered if there was still time to change. Harrison woke up at 5 in the morning. Not to his alarm. He hadn't really been able to sleep. The image of the girls hugging in their beds, seeking safety in each other, wouldn't leave his mind. He got up and went to his daughter's room. The door was ajar, as they always left it. June was on the bottom bunk, one arm thrown over the side of the blanket. Hazel on the top was sleeping while hugging her pink teddy bear. They looked so small, So innocent, and he had failed them in a way he didn't even know how to fix. He took a shower, got dressed, and went down to the kitchen. For the first time in years, he wasn't heading straight to his office. Today, he wanted to be there when June and Hazel woke up. He opened the refrigerator and stood in front of it for a few minutes. What did the girls like to have for breakfast? Milk? Juice? He had no idea. He tried to make pancakes. He burned the first batch while checking his phone. The second came out raw inside because he got distracted by a call about Boston. On the third try, he managed something that at least looked like food, but he had to clean up flour scattered all over the counter. It was 7:30 when he heard little footsteps on the stairs. "Good morning, girls," Harrison smiled, trying to sound cheerful. June appeared first, in pink pajamas with unicorns. Her blonde hair was messy from sleep, her blue eyes still sleepy. Hazel came right behind, identical to her sister, but in lilac pajamas. They stopped at the kitchen entrance and looked at him as if they were seeing a ghost. "What's Daddy doing here?" June asked, rubbing her eyes. The question hurt more than it should have. When was the last time he'd had breakfast with them? "I made pancakes for you," Harrison said, pointing to the plate on the table. "Just the way you like them." The girls looked at each other. Hazel held her sister's hand, the automatic gesture they always made when they felt insecure. "We always have cereal," June said, her voice low. "Fruit Loops cereal," Hazel added. "And with cold milk." "I know, but I thought you'd like something different." Harrison tried to keep his tone cheerful. "Pancakes are special." The girls didn't answer. They sat at the table, but they stared at the pancakes as if they were something strange. Harrison poured milk for them and sat down too, and "Come on, try them." "They're good." June cut a tiny piece, chewed slowly, and swallowed without a comment. Hazel followed her sister, but she could barely swallow. "It's a little different," June said diplomatically. "Different how?" "A little salty." Harrison tried one. It was salty. He had mistaken salt for sugar. "Sorry, girls. I don't cook much." "Tessa makes yummy pancakes," Hazel said. "She puts cinnamon in them." "And she makes them in the shape of a heart," June added, "and she lets us help." Harrison felt a pang of jealousy. Tessa made pancakes with them. She knew they liked cinnamon. She let them help. The girls went back to eating in silence, their eyes fixed on their plates. Harrison tried to start a conversation. "So, how was school yesterday after you got there?" "Normal," June answered without looking up. "Did you do anything cool? Any activities?" "No." "And your teacher? How is she?" June shrugged. Hazel kept poking her pancake without eating. "What about your friends? Is Sophia okay? And Miguel?" "Fine," June mumbled. Each answer was shorter than the last. Harrison felt like he was talking to two strangers. "Do you want me to take you to school today?" he asked. The girls looked at each other again. "Aren't you going to work?" Hazel asked. "I am, but I can take you first. And pick us up too." Harrison hesitated. He had an important meeting at 5 in the afternoon. But looking at his daughters, he decided the meeting could wait. "I'll pick you up too." For the first time that morning, the girls smiled, just a little, but they smiled. After breakfast, they went up to their room. Harrison heard them talking softly, whispers that stopped whenever he got close to the door. When they came down, they were in their school uniforms, blue plaid skirts, white blouses, black Mary Janes. Their blonde hair was tied in identical ponytails. In the car, the silence continued. June and Hazel sat in the back seat, looking out the window. Harrison tried to play a song they liked, but neither of them reacted. "Girls," he said when he stopped at a red light. "About yesterday, I'm so sorry, it won't happen again." Hazel shifted her shoulders. June kept looking outside. "I know you were upset, and you have every right to be." Silence. "I brought something for you," Harrison continued, grabbing 2 small boxes from the passenger seat. And to make up for missing the party, he handed them the gifts, 2 expensive imported children's watches, pink. They had soft leather straps and big numbers, the kind of thing he always bought when he felt guilty. June opened the box, looked at the watch and closed it again. "Thank you," she said, without any emotion. Hazel didn't even open her gift. She left the box on her lap, untouched. "You don't like them?" Harrison asked, looking in the rearview mirror. "We don't know how to tell time yet," June said. "The teacher is still teaching us." Of course, they were 5 years old. Harrison felt like a complete idiot. "I can exchange them for something else. What do you want?" "New dolls." "Games?" The girls looked at each other again. Hazel whispered something in her sister's ear. "We just wanted Daddy to come to the party," June finally said, her voice low. The sentence was like a punch to Harrison's stomach. "All the other dads came," Hazel added. "Sophia's dad brought a balloon, and we told everyone that our daddy was going to be here soon," June continued. "But he didn't come." Harrison felt his chest tighten. How many times had they explained to their friends that their dad was on his way? "I know, girls, I know you were sad." "We weren't sad," June said. "We were embarrassed." The words cut deeper than anything Harrison had ever felt. They arrived at the school in silence. Harrison stopped in front of the gate and got out to open the door for the girls. They got out of the car, grabbed their backpacks, and walked toward the entrance without looking back. "Bye, girls," Harrison called out. "Have a great day," June waved without turning around. Hazel pretended she didn't hear. Harrison was about to get back in the car when he saw a familiar figure walking down the sidewalk. Tessa, with a backpack on and a coffee cup in her hand. She waved at him and Harrison waited. "Good morning, Mr. Cole. How are they today?" "A little distant with me," Harrison admitted. "I tried to make pancakes, brought them gifts, but they barely spoke to me." Tessa nodded, as if she already expected that. They get like that when they feel hurt. It's their way of protecting themselves. "And how long does it last?" "It depends," Harrison was about to ask. "Depends on what?" When he saw June and Hazel running across the schoolyard, they had seen Tessa. "Tessa!" June shouted, running with her arms wide open. "Hi, Tessa!" Hazel shouted too, running after her sister. They both threw themselves into Tessa's arms as if they hadn't seen her in weeks. Tight hugs, huge smiles, the excited voices Harrison hadn't heard at breakfast. The transformation was instant. The same girls who had barely spoken to him were now laughing non-stop. "Hi, beautiful girls," Tessa laughed, hugging both of them at once. "How are you?" "Did you sleep well?" "We did," June said excitedly. "And Daddy made pancakes today, but they were kind of weird. He put salt in them instead of sugar," Hazel added, laughing. "They were salty." "Oh, really? What an adventure." Tessa laughed too. "It happens to everyone. I made a chocolate cake with salt once." "Really?" the girls asked in unison. "Really?" "It was awful. But we learn from our mistakes, right?" Harrison watched the scene from the other side of the fence. In 2 minutes, Tessa had achieved what he couldn't during the entire breakfast, make the girls smile. And more than that, she had turned his mistake into something normal. "Tessa, we made something for you," Hazel said, digging into her backpack. She took out a carefully folded piece of paper. It was a drawing made with crayons. "Look at this." Tessa unfolded the paper. Harrison could see from where he was. 3 figures drawn with childish lines. A girl with yellow hair, June, another girl with yellow hair, Hazel, and a taller woman with brown hair, Tessa. The 3 of them were holding hands, with a bright yellow sun shining above and colorful flowers all around. "That's me, June, and you," Hazel explained, pointing to each figure. "In our family." Harrison felt the ground disappear from under his feet. In the drawing, there were only 3 people. He wasn't there. "How beautiful, girls," Tessa said, genuinely moved. "This is the most beautiful drawing I've ever received in my life. Do you really like it?" June asked anxiously. "I love it. I'm going to keep it forever. Can I put it on my fridge at home?" "You can," they both answered together. "We made another one too," Hazel said, "for you to take home." She took another paper from her backpack. "The same drawing, but with different colors. Now you have 2, June said proudly. 2 drawings of our family," Hazel added. The girls laughed and hugged Tessa again. The school bell rang. "Go on, you're going to be late for class," Tessa said, giving each of them a kiss on the forehead. "I'll see you later." "Are you going to pick us up?" Hazel asked, hopefully. If your daddy lets me." The girls looked at Harrison on the other side of the fence. For the first time since the morning, their eyes held some expectation. Harrison nodded yes. June and Hazel smiled, not at him, but with relief knowing that Tessa would be there later. They ran into the school, waving at Tessa until they disappeared into the building. Tessa walked over to Harrison, who was still standing by his car. "They made these drawings last night," she said, carefully putting the papers in her backpack. "They stayed up late working on them." "I saw," Harrison said, his voice coming out hoarser than usual. "I'm not in the drawing." "No. Is that how they see me? As someone who isn't part of their family?" Tessa adjusted the strap of her backpack on her shoulder. "Mr. Cole, can I be honest?" Harrison nodded, though he didn't want to hear the answer. "Yesterday, when we got home from school, they asked me if I was going to leave too. Like their mother did." The words hit Harrison like a blow to the chest. They think everyone is going to leave. They think whoever cares about them will leave, and whoever stays doesn't really care. Harrison leaned against the car, his legs feeling weak. "How did I get to this point?" "I don't know, Mr. Cole, but I know they're still waiting for you." "That's why yesterday hurt so much." Tessa started to walk away, but Harrison called after her. "Tessa, wait." She turned around. Harrison took out his wallet, pulled out several bills. "For everything you did yesterday, for picking them up, staying at the party, taking care of them." He held out the money. "So I know it's not enough, but..." Tessa looked at the money and then at him. "I don't want it, Mr. Cole. But you did so much more than you had to. You deserve to be compensated." "Why? For giving your daughter's affection?" The question caught Harrison off guard. You had extra work. You wasted your time." "It wasn't work," Tessa said calmly. "Then I didn't waste any time. Then let me at least..." "Mr. Cole," her voice was firm but not rude, "do you want to know what I really did yesterday?" Harrison put the money away, waiting. "I just gave them care and attention." Tessa adjusted her backpack strap. "They told me you live for the company and never have time." The words hit Harrison like a slap in the face. "They said that." In those exact words, June said, "Daddy can't stop working because then we won't have any money." Hazel added, "But we'd rather have fewer toys and more daddy." Harrison felt as if someone had knocked the wind out of him. "And what did you say?" "That maybe their daddy didn't know that sometimes adults think they're doing the right thing, but they forget to ask what the children really want." Tessa started to walk away again, but stopped. "Mr. Cole, money won't solve this. They don't want expensive gifts. They want their father to be present." She walked away, leaving Harrison alone on the sidewalk. He got into the car and just sat there for about 10 minutes, trying to process what had happened. The drawing where he didn't appear. The girls' curt answers. The ease with which they ran to Tessa. And especially the words Tessa had repeated. "We'd rather have fewer toys and more daddy." Harrison had always thought he was working for the girls. Every extra hour, every weekend at the office, every meeting that stretched into the night, all to ensure they had the best life possible. But they didn't want the best life possible. They wanted their father. And he had been so busy building a perfect future for them that he had forgotten to live in the present. His phone rang. Another meeting. Another contract. Another opportunity he couldn't miss. Harrison looked at the phone, and for the first time in years, turned it off without answering. He had more important things to do. He needed to figure out how to be a father to his own daughters again, and he needed to figure it out fast, before it was too late. Before June and Hazel stopped waiting for him for good. Harrison started the car and drove away with a strange feeling in his chest. It wasn't relief, not yet, but it was the beginning of something. It was the beginning of waking up. Harrison was in the middle of a presentation on the Miami project when he stopped talking. The 12 executives around the table looked at him, waiting. The PowerPoint was still open on the screen, showing projected profit charts. But Harrison couldn't think about numbers anymore. All he could think about was the drawing of 3 people, June, Hazel, and Tessa. He wasn't there. "Mr. Cole," the company lawyer tried to get his attention, "you were talking about the construction costs." Harrison closed his laptop. "The meeting is over." "But sir, we still have to..." It's over. Harrison stood up, grabbed his jacket. Reschedule for next week. Next week? But the deadline. Next week, Harrison repeated, walking out of the room. In the elevator, he called his secretary. Linda, cancel everything on my schedule for today. Everything. Mr. Cole, you have the meeting with the investors at 3i, then cancel everything. And for the next few days, block off 2 to 6 in the afternoon. Every day. May I ask why? Harrison looked at his reflection in the elevator mirror. When was the last time he had left the office before 7 at night? I have more important commitments. 40 minutes later, Harrison was standing in front of the girls' school. It was 2:15 in the afternoon, way too early for school to be out. But he had called the front office and made up a doctor's appointment. The first lie he'd told to get out of work, and he felt good about it. He waited in the courtyard with other mothers and fathers. Some looked at him curiously. Harrison Cole never showed up there during the day. It was always the cleaner who picked up the girls. When the bell rang, Harrison felt a knot of nervousness in his stomach. What if they didn't want to go with him? What if they preferred to wait for Tessa? The doors opened. Children ran out in all directions. June appeared first, as always. She scanned the courtyard for someone, and when she saw Harrison standing there, she stopped walking. Hazel bumped into her sister. Why did you stop? Where's... She saw Harrison too. The two of them stood frozen at the door, holding their backpacks, not understanding what was happening. Harrison walked over to them. Hi, girls. I came to pick you up. But it's not time yet, June said, confused. School doesn't end until 3. I know. I asked for you to leave early. Why? Hazel asked. Because I thought we could spend the rest of the day together. Just the 3 of us. The girls looked at each other. It was the look they always exchanged when they didn't know what to expect. Doing what? June asked. Whatever you want. The park, ice cream, playing. Harrison knelt in front of them, getting to their level. How about it? June chewed on her lower lip, what she always did when she was thinking, and you're not going to work? Not today. Not even on your phone? Harrison took his phone out of his pocket and turned it off in front of them. Not even on my phone. For the first time in days, the girls smiled at him. The park was 10 minutes from the school. Harrison didn't know parks like that still existed, with chain swings, metal slides, and wooden seesaws. Everything was a bit old, but well maintained. Do you know how to push a swing, Daddy? June asked, running ahead. I think so, Harrison said. It's been a while since I've pushed one out, but I'll try. Tessa pushes really high, Hazel commented. Until we can touch the tree with our feet. Harrison felt that familiar pang of jealousy but tried to ignore it. Then I'll push even higher. June sat on the swing, holding onto the chains. Harrison stood behind her and gave the first push. Harder, Daddy! He pushed harder. June laughed, throwing her head back. My turn, Hazel shouted, running to the swing next to her. For half an hour, Harrison pushed them both on the swings. They laughed every time they went higher, shouted harder when he slowed down, and competed to see who could go further. Harrison couldn't remember the last time he had heard them laugh like that. Daddy, come see, June called from the slide. I can go down upside down. Me too, Hazel shouted, already sliding down on her stomach. Harrison ran over to see. The two of them slid down together, landing in the sand, laughing. Be careful, girls, he said, helping them up. You could get hurt. We always do it like this, June said, brushing sand off her clothes. It's more fun. And Tessa lets you. Tessa slides down with us, Hazel said. She's brave. Harrison looked at the slide. It was high, and it didn't look very safe. Come down with us, Daddy, June begged, pulling his hand. Me? On the slide? It's fun, you'll see. Harrison looked at the slide again. When was the last time he had done something just for fun? Okay, he said, taking off his jacket. But if I break something, you're the ones explaining it to my secretary. The girls laughed and ran to the ladder. Harrison climbed up behind them, feeling ridiculous. A 42-year-old man climbing a park slide. But when he slid down, with June in his lap and Hazel screaming with joy beside him, Harrison understood why they loved it so much. It really was fun. They played for 2 hours, swings, slide, seesaw, the monkey bars. The girls taught Harrison how to play tag, hide and seek behind the trees, and the floor is lava using the park benches. He got dirty, sweaty, and tore his dress shirt on a low branch, and he had more fun than he'd had in years. "Daddy, now ice cream," Hazel said when they finally got tired of playing. There was an ice cream shop across the street, one of those old-fashioned ones, with a glass counter full of different flavors. Can I get 2 scoops?" June asked, pressing her face against the glass. "You can get as many as you want," Harrison said. The girls looked at each other, surprised. "Really? Really?" June ordered 3 scoops, strawberry, chocolate, and vanilla. Hazel ordered 2, coconut and raspberry. Harrison ordered a coffee, one he hadn't had in years. They sat at a small table on the sidewalk. The sun was starting to set, painting everything orange. "Daddy," June said, licking the ice cream dripping down her cone. "Why do you never play with us?" The question caught Harrison off guard. I work a lot." "But everyone works," Hazel said. "Sophia's dad works and he always comes to pick her up. And Miguel's mom works at a hospital," June added, "but she comes to the school parties." Harrison took a bite of his ice cream, buying time to think of an answer. "You're right," he said finally. "I work too much, and I forget about the important things." "Are we important?" June asked. The question hurt Harrison's chest. "You are the most important things in the world to me." "Then why don't you stay with us?" Harrison looked at the 2 girls, their blonde hair messy from playing so much, their faces smudged with dirt and ice cream, their blue eyes waiting for an honest answer. "Because I'm kind of dumb," he said. "So I thought working a lot was the best way to take care of you. But you taught me that it's not." "We taught you?" Hazel asked, surprised. "Yes, you did. You taught me that you'd rather have your daddy around than have expensive toys." June smiled, the first genuine smile she'd given him in days. "It's true. We get tired of toys. But not of Daddy." Harrison felt his eyes well up. He blinked quickly, trying to hide it. "So from now on, things are going to be different." "How so?" Hazel asked. "I'm going to pick you up from school more often. I'm going to play with you. I'm going to make dinner with you." "Do you know how to cook?" June asked, skeptical. "No," Harrison laughed. "Sure, but you can teach me. And Tessa can help too," Hazel suggested, excitedly. "Yes, she can." They finished their ice cream, talking about things Harrison had never asked before, what their favorite subject in school was, P.E. for June, art for Hazel. What their favorite game was, tag. What kind of pet they wanted, a dog, they both agreed. Basic information that any father should know, and Harrison was finding it out little by little. In the car, on the way home, June asked the question Harrison had been expecting. "Daddy." "Yes, sweetie." "Is it going to happen again?" Harrison looked in the rearview mirror. June was in the back seat, holding her sister's hand. "What, honey?" "This day." Playing together, getting ice cream, talking. Harrison stopped at a red light and turned to look at them. "Yes, it will. Many times." "Promise?" Hazel asked. "I promise." "Really promise?" June insisted. "You won't forget when you have an important meeting." Harrison felt the weight of the question. How many promises had he already broken? How many times had he said he would be home early and arrived late? But this time was different. This time he understood what really mattered. "I really promise," he said, looking into both their eyes. "From now on, you are my most important meeting." The following weeks were unlike anything Harrison had ever experienced. For the first time in years, he left the office at 5:30 in the afternoon every day. He would get in his BMW and drive to the girls' school, always arriving about 10 minutes before the bell rang. At first, June and Hazel still seemed surprised when they saw him there, as if they expected him to disappear at any moment, but slowly they got used to it. And they started running to him too. At home, the routine changed completely. Harrison helped with homework, discovering that June was good at math and Hazel had a knack for writing. He tried to cook dinner, burning a few things in the process, but learning others. The girls became his cooking teachers. "No, Daddy, The pasta goes in like this, June would show him, stirring the boiling water with a wooden spoon. And you have to add salt, Hazel would add, throwing a pinch into the pot. Harrison discovered that cooking with his daughters was more fun than any business meeting. The house, which used to be as quiet as a museum, began to come alive. Laughter in the kitchen when a recipe went wrong, music on the radio during dinner, conversations in the living room after the girls finished their homework. "Daddy, tell us about when you were a kid," June would ask, sitting on the sofa next to him. "What did you play?" Hazel would ask, curious. Harrison discovered that talking about his own childhood was a way to reconnect with the child inside him and with the children in front of him. On weekends, they would go on adventures. To the zoo. This time, Harrison actually went with them, saw the monkeys, fed the ducks. They visited museums where the girls ran between the artworks asking questions about everything. "So why doesn't that lady have any arms?" Hazel asked, looking at the Venus de Milo. "And why does that man look so angry?" June wanted to know, pointing to a Roman bust. Harrison didn't know the answers, but he discovered that not knowing was also fun. They would make up stories together. The biggest change happened at bedtime. Before, Harrison only went up to the girls' room to say goodnight when he got home before they fell asleep. A quick kiss on the forehead and goodbye. Now he read them stories. "Which one do you want to hear tonight?" he would ask, sitting in the chair between the two beds. "The one about the brave princess," June always requested. "No, the one about the nice dragon," Hazel would protest. "How about a new story?" Harrison would suggest, "one that I'll make up right now." And he would invent stories about twin princesses who saved entire kingdoms, fought nice monsters, and always won because they were together. The girls would fall asleep smiling. One night, as Harrison was going downstairs after putting the girls to bed, he heard them talking. "June," Hazel's voice in the dark. "What? Daddy's different, isn't he?" "Yeah, he plays with us now. And he makes that funny voice when he tells stories. And he burned the eggs yesterday." June giggled softly. "But at least he tried." "Yeah. At least he tried." Harrison paused on the stairs, listening. "June?" "Yeah? I think we have a real daddy now." "I think so too." Harrison went down the rest of the stairs with a tight feeling in his heart. But not from sadness. From something he hadn't felt in a long time. Happiness. From having come home. From being a father again. The house that was once silent was now full of voices, the smells of home-cooked food, the sound of children playing, drawings stuck to the refrigerator, little shoes scattered by the entrance, life. And for the first time since his wife had died, Harrison Cole truly felt at home. The absent father was coming back one day at a time. Harrison was just finishing tying June's shoe when he heard the front door open. "Hi, girls," Tessa's voice echoed through the hall. "Tessa!" June and Hazel shouted at the same time, dropping everything and running downstairs. Harrison followed, more slowly. He found Tessa in the middle of the living room, being hugged by the two girls as if she were family. And maybe she was. In recent days, since Harrison had started spending more time at home, Tessa had become more than the cleaning lady. She would arrive in the morning and help the girls get ready when Harrison needed to leave early. She would stay late when he got home late. She cooked, played, helped with homework. It was as if she had always been part of their routine. "Daddy's taking us to the new park," June said excitedly, hopping from one foot to the other, "the one with the big toys." "And then we're going to eat burgers," Hazel added, making exaggerated gestures. "Do you want to come with us?" Tessa looked at Harrison, hesitant. She was wearing faded jeans and a light blue blouse, her hair in a simple ponytail. Nothing special, but there was something about her that made Harrison pay attention. "Oh, I don't know, girls. Your dad wants to spend time with you." "But we want you with us too," June insisted, holding Tessa's hand. Harrison watched the scene, Tessa trying to back away, being polite, the girls begging her to come along, clinging to her, and him. He wanted her to come too. The realization caught him by surprise. When had he started to enjoy her company? When had her presence become so necessary? "Want to come with us?" Harrison asked, before he could change his mind. The girls really like you. Tessa blinked, surprised. For a second, Harrison saw something different in her brown eyes. Hope. Maybe. I don't want to intrude. You won't be intruding at all, Harrison said, and he was sincere. Actually, it would be nice to have you along. You understand kids better than I do. Please, Tessa, June begged, making that face no one could resist. Please. Hazel imitated her sister, clasping her hands as if she were praying. Tessa laughed. That soft, genuine laugh that Harrison had grown to love hearing around the house. It was a sound that made everything lighter. Okay, she said, smiling, but only if it's really not an inconvenience. It's no inconvenience at all, Harrison assured her. And it wasn't. The idea of spending the afternoon with Tessa and the girls felt right, natural. As if it was how it was always supposed to be. The new park was on the other side of town. During the drive, Harrison listened to the girls chattering in the back seat with Tessa in the middle of them. Tessa, have you ever been on those rides that spin super fast? June asked, gesturing. I have, but a long time ago. When I was little, about 20 years ago. 20 years, Hazel exclaimed, as if it were an eternity. And you didn't get dizzy. I did. One time I got off and fell right on the ground like a sack of potatoes. Tessa laughed, making exaggerated gestures. My mom laughed so hard she cried. Said I looked like a penguin trying to walk. The girls laughed loudly, and Harrison found himself smiling too. There was something contagious about the way Tessa told stories. She wasn't afraid to be silly. Harrison glanced in the rearview mirror. Tessa was telling another story with her hands, making different voices for each character. The girls were laughing, clinging to her, their eyes shining. There was something about her that made people feel at ease, a genuine simplicity that Harrison wasn't used to seeing. In his world, everyone was always trying to impress. Tessa was real. At the park, Harrison discovered that watching Tessa with the girls was like watching a masterclass in naturalness. She wasn't afraid to get dirty. When June wanted to play in the sandbox, Tessa sat right down in her light jeans and helped build elaborate castles. When Hazel asked her to climb on the playground equipment that swung in every direction, Tessa climbed up without hesitation, screaming along with them. Come on, Daddy, June called from the top of the giant slide. Come play with us. Harrison looked at the equipment. It was high, very high, and there were several kids lining up, some looking at him curiously. I don't think adults can fit there, sweetie. Of course they can, Tessa said, already climbing the stairs without fear. I'll go with you. Only scaredy cats are afraid. And she really did go up. Harrison watched her slide down the giant slide with June in her lap, both of them screaming and laughing like children. Tessa's hair flew up, and she had a huge smile on her face, a smile of pure joy. Hazel went right after, alone, but also screaming with joy. Your turn, Daddy! Tessa shouted from the bottom of the slide, her hair completely messy. You can't just stand there watching? Harrison looked around. Several people were watching. Some mothers smiled at him. A man in a suit climbing on playground equipment wasn't something you saw every day. But then he looked at his daughters, at Tessa, at the three of them waiting for him with genuine expectation in their eyes, and he climbed. The climb up was embarrassing. Harrison felt ridiculous. The slide down was terrifying and fun at the same time. He reached the bottom, laughing like he hadn't laughed in years, his suit all wrinkled. Daddy came down, June shouted proudly, clapping her hands, and he didn't break anything. Hazel added, laughing. Tessa laughed too, extending her hand to help him up. When her fingers touched his, Harrison felt something strange, a warmth that shot up his arm. See? It's not so scary, she said, still holding his hand. For a moment, with her hand in his, Harrison felt something stir in his chest. Something he hadn't felt in a very long time, something like hope. He looked into Tessa's brown eyes, at her sincere smile, at the natural way she cared for him and the girls, as if taking care of them was the easiest thing in the world, and he realized he was in trouble, big trouble. After the park, they went to the diner the girls had chosen. One of those old-fashioned American ones, with red vinyl booths, posters on the wall, and milkshakes served in giant glasses. "Can I order fries?" June asked, looking at the laminated menu. "And a chocolate milkshake," Hazel added, already drooling. "You can order whatever you want," Harrison said, still a little dazed by his confused feelings. Tessa ordered a simple chicken sandwich and juice. Harrison ordered a hamburger but could barely eat. He was too busy watching how Tessa cut the French fries into smaller pieces so Hazel could eat them better, how she wiped June's mouth when the ketchup dripped, how she laughed at the silly jokes the girls told as if they were the funniest things in the world, how she did all of this effortlessly, naturally, as if taking care of the girls was instinctive for her. "Tessa," June said in the middle of the meal, her mouth full of fries, "why did you never get married?" Harrison almost choked on his soda. "June," he scolded, clearing his throat, "you don't ask that." "It's okay," Tessa laughed, seemingly unbothered. "It's because I never found the right person." "What do you mean, right person?" Hazel asked, curious, stirring her milkshake. "You know when you find someone who makes you feel at home, safe, happy just being near them?" Tessa spoke softly, but Harrison caught every word. The girls shook their heads, not quite understanding. But Harrison understood. Perfectly. And he felt his chest tighten in a way he didn't know if it was good or scary. "What about you, Daddy?" June turned to him, still chewing. "Are you going to get married again?" The question caught Harrison completely off guard. He glanced at Tessa, who turned red and started fiddling with her napkin. I don't know, sweetie. I haven't thought about it." The lie came out naturally. "But if you did, it would have to be with someone nice," Hazel said seriously. "Someone who really likes us. And who knows how to make pancakes," June added practically. "And who isn't afraid to play. And who is really pretty, not just with makeup," Hazel completed. Harrison looked at Tessa, who was getting redder and redder. She was exactly all of that and more. "Yeah," he said softly, his eyes fixed on her. "It would have to be someone very special indeed." On the way back home, the girls fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from so much playing. Tessa was silent, looking out the window. "Sorry about their questions," Harrison said, breaking the silence. "They're too curious sometimes." "It's no problem. Kids are like that. They ask the questions adults are too afraid to ask. And I'm sorry if we made you uncomfortable. With all that talk about marriage." Tessa turned to him, and Harrison saw something different in her eyes. "Do you feel uncomfortable?" The question was simple, but Harrison felt its weight. "No," he admitted, surprising himself. "Actually, it made me think about things I haven't thought about in a long time." "What kind of things?" Harrison stopped at a red light and looked at her, really looked. About how good it is to have someone who cares, for real. Without expecting anything in return, Tessa didn't answer right away, but she didn't look away either. The light turned green. Harrison started driving again, but something had changed in the car's silence. The air felt thicker. Something had blossomed there, and they both knew it. In the following weeks, Tessa started coming to the house in a completely different way. She was no longer just the cleaning lady who stayed a few hours and left. She would arrive early in the morning and often only leave after dinner when the girls were already asleep. She helped Harrison in the kitchen, played with the girls in the living room, watched movies with them on the sofa. It was as if she had become part of the family without anyone noticing exactly when it happened. Harrison started to notice little things. How Tessa always knew when June was sad, even when the girl tried to hide it. How she could make Hazel stop a tantrum with just a look and a smile. How she made the house warmer, more alive, just by being there. And he started noticing things about her too. How she hummed softly while cooking, always old songs. How she had a small mark at the corner of her left eye that appeared when she smiled for real, not just out of politeness. How she always tucked a strand of hair behind her ear when she was nervous. How beautiful she was in a simple, real way, without any artifice. A beauty that came from within, from the way she treated people, from how much she cared. One night, after the girls had gone to sleep, Harrison and Tessa were in the kitchen finishing up the dinner dishes. It was a routine they had developed naturally. He dried, she washed. "Tessa," he said, drying a plate. "Now can I ask you something? Of course. She didn't stop washing the glasses, but he saw her shoulders tense slightly. Why do you do all this? Take care of the girls. Stay here late. Help with everything. She stopped washing the glasses and looked at him. There was something vulnerable in her expression. Because I like it. I like you all. The girls. This house, her voice was soft. Being a part of something. But it's not your obligation. It's not an obligation, no. It's a choice. She placed the sponge in the sink. I choose to be here. Harrison placed the dish towel on the counter. A choice. I choose to be here. I choose to take care of them. I choose. She hesitated as if the next words were dangerous. I choose to be a part of all this. They stood there, facing each other, with only the sink between them. The silence was heavy with everything they couldn't say. Harrison felt something stir in his chest, something he was sure was dead and buried with his wife, a warmth, a need. Tessa, I know, she said softly, looking away. I know it's weird. I'm just the cleaning lady. You're the boss. It's not that. Then what is it? Harrison took a step forward. Now only the corner of the sink separated them. It's that you're not just the cleaning lady. You haven't been for a long time. Maybe you never were. And what am I? The question hung in the air between them, heavy with possibilities. Harrison looked into her brown eyes at the way she was breathing a little faster. You are, he started, but the words were too big, too complicated, too scary. You are important, he said finally, to me, to the girls, to this house. You made us a real family. Tessa smiled, that small, genuine smile that made the mark appear at the corner of her eye. Thank you. For what? For letting me be a part of all this. For letting me love you all. The word hung in the air. Love. She had said love. That night, after Tessa left, Harrison lay awake in bed thinking, when had he stopped seeing Tessa as an employee and started seeing her as, what? A friend? A partner? Something more. When had her eyes started to make his heart beat faster? When had her smile started to brighten his days? When had the house started to feel empty when she wasn't there? When had he fallen in love? The word scared him and filled him with hope at the same time. In love. Him, Harrison Cole, a practical, rational man who didn't believe in second chances at love. But that's what was happening. Tessa was awakening something in him that he was sure was dead. Something he thought he would never feel again. The ability to love again. To trust again. To imagine a different future. A future with laughter in the kitchen. With someone who knew the names of all the girls' teddy bears. With someone who made him want to be a better man. Harrison looked at the dark ceiling of his room, listening to the silence of the house. But it wasn't the empty silence of before. It was a silence full of possibilities. Full of Tessa humming in the kitchen, full of the girls laughing in the living room, full of a life he didn't know he wanted until she showed up and showed him what it could be. And for the first time in years, Harrison Cole fell asleep smiling, dreaming of possible futures. It was Sunday morning, and the living room table was covered in paper, colored pencils and crayons scattered everywhere. June was lying on the floor, her tongue sticking out in concentration, drawing what looked like a house with a garden full of flowers. Hazel was sitting in a chair, leaning over a sheet, making careful strokes with a pink pencil. Tessa was in the middle of them, also on the floor, helping June choose the right colors for the sky. How about light blue up here and darker down below? Tessa suggested, picking up 2 different shades. Good idea, June said, grabbing the baby blue pencil. That way it looks like a real sky. Harrison was in the kitchen preparing lunch, or trying to. In recent months, he had ventured more into cooking, especially on weekends when Tessa didn't have to work but ended up showing up anyway. She would say she was just checking in on the girls, but she always stayed for lunch, to play, to watch a movie, as if that house were hers too, and maybe it was. He could hear their conversations from the living room as he chopped vegetables, a skill he had recently developed, along with not cutting himself in the process. Tessa, do you think my tree looks good? Hazel asked. It looks beautiful. But how about adding some birds to the branches? I don't know how to draw birds. I'll teach you. Look, you just do it like this. Harrison smiled, listening to Tessa patiently explain how to make birds with small circles and triangles. She had infinite patience with the girls. She was never in a hurry, never said she didn't know, never pretended she was too busy to help. The opposite of him until a few months ago. June, stop eating the crayons. Tessa laughed. That's not food, but it smells good. It smells good, but it's not for eating. Come on, I'll get you an apple. Harrison heard Tessa's footsteps approaching the kitchen. She appeared in the doorway, her hair down today, a low ponytail that let a few strands escape. Can I grab an apple for June? She asked. She's hungry. Of course. Take as many as you want. Harrison pointed to the fruit bowl. By the way, since you're here, can you tell me if this looks like food? Tessa approached the stove where Harrison was stirring something that was supposed to be a sauté, but looked more like a burnt offering. She said, trying not to laugh. How about turning down the heat and adding a little water? Water in a sauté? Just a little, so it doesn't stick to the pan. Harrison did as she suggested, and like magic, the food stopped making a desperate sizzling sound. How do you know these things? He asked. My mom taught me. She used to say that cooking is a matter of patience and love. Harrison looked at her. Tessa rarely spoke of her mother, but always with a mix of longing and affection. She must have been a good mother. She was the best. Tessa smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. She would have loved the girls. Something in the way she said that made Harrison stop stirring the food. Tessa! Tessa! June shouted from the living room. Come see! I finished my house! I'm coming! Tessa shouted back, grabbing the apple. We'll talk later, she said to Harrison, heading back to the living room. Harrison continued cooking, but now he was paying more attention to the conversations in the living room. There was something different in the girls' tone today, more intimate, as if they were sharing secrets. Tessa, can I ask you something? June's voice, soft. Of course, sweetie. Would you like to have children? Harrison stopped stirring the sauté. That was a question he had never asked, but had always wondered about. Why do you want to know? Tessa responded with another question. I just want to know. I would, yes. I've always wanted to have a family. Then why don't you have one? Harrison moved closer to the kitchen entrance, trying to hear better without being seen. Sometimes things don't happen when we want them to, Tessa said gently. But you know what I've discovered. What? That family isn't just about who you're born with. Sometimes family is who you choose to love. There was a silence. Harrison could imagine the girls processing this information. Tessa, Hazel's voice, more serious than usual. We miss having a mum. Harrison felt his heart ache. They had never said it so directly before. I know, my love, Tessa said softly. It's normal to miss her. But you take care of us like a real mom, June added, her voice choked with emotion. The silence that followed was thick. Harrison leaned against the kitchen wall, his chest tight. Oh, come here, you two, he heard Tessa say. He imagined her opening her arms, the girls throwing themselves into her embrace. He imagined the three of them together in the middle of the living room full of drawings, comforting each other. I love you both so much, Tessa said, her voice also choked up. So much. We love you too, June murmured. You're never going to leave, right? Hazel asked, and Harrison heard the fear in his daughter's voice. Not if you don't want me to. We don't. Ever. Harrison closed his eyes, leaning against the kitchen wall. The tears came without warning, not of sadness, but of something much more complex, relief, gratitude, and a deep understanding that hit him like a lightning bolt. They had already accepted her. June and Hazel weren't just playing family with Tessa. They weren't just having fun with a cool adult who had the patience to play with them. They had chosen her. Just as Tessa had said, family is who you choose to love. And his daughters had chosen Tessa as their mother. The realization hit him with a force that left him breathless. All the times he had seen the girls run to Tessa at school. All the times they had asked if she would be home when they got there. All the drawings where she appeared as part of the family. They weren't waiting for him to decide anything. They had already decided. The question wasn't whether Tessa could be a good stepmother. The question wasn't whether they would accept her into the family. The question was whether he would have the courage to make official what was already happening. Harrison wiped his eyes with the back of his hand and went back to the stove. The sauté was perfect, not burnt or stuck. Maybe he was finally learning to cook. Or maybe he was finally learning other things too. "Daddy," June called him from the living room. "Come see our drawings." "I'm coming," he replied, turning off the heat. When he entered the living room, he found the three of them still hugging on the floor, surrounded by colorful paper. Tessa's eyes were red, but she was smiling. "Look, Daddy," Hazel showed him her drawing. "I drew our family." Harrison took the paper. There they were, the four of them, him, June, Hazel, and Tessa. But this time, he was in the drawing, all holding hands, with a huge sun above and hearts flying around. "It's beautiful, sweetie." "And I drew our house," June showed him hers. With a big garden for us to plant flowers." In the drawing, the house had 4 windows, one for each of them. On the front door, there were 4 stick figures, the complete family. Harrison looked at Tessa, who was watching him look at the drawings. There was a silent question in her eyes, a hope she tried to hide, but that he could see clearly. "They're the most beautiful drawings I've ever seen," he said, sitting on the floor beside them. "Can I make one too?" "You can," the girls said in unison. Harrison took a blank sheet of paper and started to draw. He wasn't good at art, but it didn't matter. He drew 4 figures holding hands with a house behind them and a blue sky above. But in the corner of the paper, he wrote something the girls' drawings didn't have, the Cole family. And underneath, in smaller letters, "Complete." When he finished, he showed it to them. "Wow," Tessa sighed. "It's beautiful." "It's our real family," June said, beaming. "Forever," Hazel added. Harrison looked at Tessa over the girls' heads. She was crying again, but smiling too. He understood that he didn't need to say anything, not yet, but the decision was already made. His daughters had chosen, and he was choosing too. The Cole family was, finally, complete. It was a Thursday night, and the house was steeped in that good kind of quiet that only comes after a full day. June and Hazel had played in the yard until they were exhausted, eaten spaghetti with tomato sauce, Harrison's latest specialty, and watched a Disney movie in the living room. Now they were both fast asleep on the big sofa, leaning against each other, covered with the crochet blanket Tessa had brought from her home a few weeks ago. Harrison was in the armchair next to them, reading some work reports, but actually watching his daughters sleep more than paying attention to the numbers on the tablet screen. Tessa was at the other end of the sofa, with the girl's legs on her lap, holding a cup of chamomile tea in her hands. She was wearing a grey wool sweater and jeans, simple clothes that somehow made her even more beautiful in Harrison's eyes. The silence between them was comfortable. They didn't need to talk all the time. In recent months, they had developed this quiet intimacy of people who feel at home in each other's company. "Tired they're growing up so fast," Tessa murmured softly, adjusting the blanket over Hazel. "It feels like just yesterday they were those scared little girls I found crying at their birthday party." Harrison smiled, closing the tablet. "You changed them. You changed us." "I think you all changed me," Tessa said, taking a sip of her tea. "Size, I don't even remember what my life was like before you." There was something different in her tone of voice tonight, a melancholy that Harrison wasn't used to hearing. "Tessa, is everything okay?" She was silent for a moment, looking at the sleeping girls. "It's been 3 years today," she said finally. 3 years since what?" "Since my mum died." Harrison felt his chest tighten. Tessa rarely spoke about her mother, but always with great affection. He knew they had been very close, but he had never asked for details about how she had died. "I'm so sorry. You hadn't told me. I don't like to talk about it. But today, I don't know. Maybe it's because of the girls. They make me think of her a lot." Tessa took another sip of tea, her eyes lost in memories. She would have loved June and Hazel. She always said she wanted to be a grandmother one day. Harrison leaned forward in the armchair. "What was she like?" "She looked like me," everyone said. Small, brown hair, big eyes. Tessa smiled, but there were tears in her eyes. But her personality was completely different. She was brave, decisive, never afraid to try new things. "And who do you take after then?" Harrison asked, trying to lighten the mood. "My dad, probably. He died when I was little, but my mom always said he was cautious, that he thought a lot before acting." Tessa paused, fiddling with her cup. Sometimes I think too much." "About what?" She looked at him, as if deciding whether she should keep talking. "About what I could have been, what I could have done." Harrison waited. Something important was coming. "I started studying elementary education in college," Tessa said, her voice low. "I always wanted to be a teacher for young children. I love the idea of teaching, of helping little ones discover the world." She stopped talking, looking at her hands. "But my mom got sick during my junior year, cancer, and there was no one else to take care of her." Harrison felt a lump in his throat. "So you dropped everything?" "I dropped everything to take care of her. College, plans, dreams, everything." Tears streamed down Tessa's face, but she made no move to wipe them away. "It was 2 hard years, very hard, but I don't regret it. She needed me." "Of course she did. You did the right thing." "I know, but after she was gone..." Tessa sighed. "All that was left was work, bills to pay, life to live. And I never got another chance." Harrison looked at her face in the soft light of the room. There was a resignation there that broke his heart. "You never tried to go back to school?" "I tried a few times, but between working to live and trying to study, it's complicated, and the more time passes, the harder it gets. Today I don't even know if I'd be a good teacher. Tessa, you're amazing with the girls. You have a natural gift." She smiled sadly. "Thank you. But being good with 2 kids is different from being a certified teacher. It's different from having a degree, from being able to work in a real school, from having a career." Harrison wanted to say something, but he didn't know what. The words felt too small to console such a great pain. "Wait," Tessa said, getting up slowly without waking the girls. "I want to show you something." She went to her bag on the kitchen table and came back with an old brown leather wallet. "My mom gave me this wallet when I started college," she said, opening it carefully. "She said it was for me to keep all the important things." Tessa took out a folded paper, her high school diploma, some documents, and then a small, faded photo. "This is her," she said, showing the photo to Harrison. The woman in the photograph did look like Tessa. Same small stature, same delicate face. But there was something different in her smile, a confidence, a joy for life that Harrison rarely saw in her daughter. "She was beautiful," he said. "She was. And she was very proud of me. She said I was going to be the best teacher in the world." Tessa laughed softly, but it was a sad laugh. "She died thinking I was still going to go back to college after she got better." "Did she know you had dropped out to take care of her?" "I never told her. I didn't want her to feel guilty. So I pretended I was just taking a break." Tessa put the photo back in her wallet. "She died hoping I would fulfill my dream." Harrison looked at the woman sitting there on his sofa, holding a photo of her dead mother, surrounded by his daughters who loved her as if she were family. And there, in that moment, he understood the depth of the woman before him. Tessa wasn't just the cleaning lady who had become part of the family. She wasn't just the woman he had fallen in love with. She was someone who had given up her own dreams to care for someone she loved. Someone who had sacrificed her own future without a second thought. Someone who had carried a silent pain for years, but who still managed to smile, play, love. She was an extraordinary woman who didn't even know her own strength. Harrison lay awake all night thinking about their conversation. The next morning, as soon as the girls left for school, he made a few calls. He spoke with his secretary, cancelled 2 meetings, and left the house with a mission. It took him 3 days to get all the information he needed. 2 more to handle the paperwork, and when everything was set, he waited for the right moment. It was a Monday afternoon. The girls were doing their homework at the kitchen table, and Tessa was helping June with math. Harrison came home from work earlier than usual, with a white envelope in his hand. "Tessa," he said. "But can I talk to you?" She looked at him. surprised by his serious tone. "Of course, what is it?" Harrison took a deep breath. "It's a scholarship for you to go back to school. Flexible hours, everything taken care of. You've given so much to us. Now it's your turn." The silence that followed was total. Even the girls stopped doing their homework to look. Tessa took the envelope with trembling hands. She opened it slowly, read the paper once, twice, 3 times. "Harrison, is this real?" "It's real. It's a full scholarship to a university that offers an evening program in elementary education. Classes are 3 times a week, from 7 to 10 at night. You can work during the day and study at night." "But how did you manage this?" "I have some connections. The company has a few partnerships with universities, and you have all the necessary qualifications." Tessa looked at the paper again, then at him. "Harrison, I don't know if I can. What about my job here and you all?" "You can and you deserve it," Harrison said, moving closer to her. "Tessa, you took care of your mother when she needed it. You took care of my daughters when they needed it. You took care of me when I didn't even know I needed it. Now it's time for someone to take care of you." "But Tessa's going to be a teacher," June shouted, dropping her pencil and running to hug her. "For real," Hazel shouted too, joining the hug. "And will you be proud of me?" Tessa asked with tears in her eyes. "We're already proud," June said, "but now we'll be even prouder." "And you'll be able to teach other kids too," Hazel added, "just like you teach us." Tessa looked at Harrison over the girls' heads. "Why did you do this?" she asked softly. "Because you deserve to have your dreams back. Because your mother would have been proud. And because—" He hesitated, but said it anyway. "Because I love you, and when you love someone, you want to see them happy." The words hung in the air. It was the first time he had said it out loud. Tessa closed her eyes, still holding the scholarship paper, still being hugged by the girls. "I accept," she said finally. "I accept. Yay!" the girls shouted together. Harrison smiled, watching the scene. Tessa was crying, but they were tears of joy now. The girls were jumping around her as if it were Christmas. And for the first time since he had met her, Harrison saw something in Tessa's eyes beyond resignation. He saw hope. He saw a future. Tessa Ray, who had spent years taking care of everyone but herself, finally had a path forward. Now she too had a future to build. It was a Friday night, 3 weeks after Tessa had started her education classes. Harrison walked up the stairs carrying Hazel in his arms. She had fallen asleep on the sofa during the movie, while June walked beside him, rubbing her sleepy eyes and dragging her teddy bear up the stairs. "Brush your teeth first," he whispered to June, gently placing Hazel on the top bunk. There was a routine now, a silent dance they had perfected over the months. Harrison would carefully take off the girls and shoes, trying not to wake Hazel, while June changed from her dress into her unicorn pajamas. He supervised the teeth brushing. June always forgot the back teeth, and checked if she had washed her face properly. Then came his favorite part, the bedtime story. Tonight it was the one about the brave princess that June always requested, about a girl who saved the kingdom with her intelligence. Harrison already knew the story by heart, but he loved seeing June's eyes light up. "And then the princess discovered that she didn't need a prince to be happy," he whispered. "Just like us," June murmured, already half asleep. "We don't need anyone but our family." Harrison felt his chest swell with emotion. He said goodnight with kisses on both their foreheads, covering Hazel with her fluffy blanket. "Daddy," June murmured as he was turning off the light. "What is it, sweetie?" "Is Tessa still going to come here now that she's studying? Won't she be too busy?" Harrison smiled in the dark. The girls had asked this question several times in the past few weeks, always afraid that the people they love would leave. "Yes, she will. She's still working here during the day and studying at night, and she's with us on the weekends." "And when she becomes a teacher, will she still live close by?" "Yes, she will." "Actually," Harrison hesitated but decided to be honest, "I'm thinking of asking her to live here with us forever." June's eyes opened in the dark. Really, Daddy? Really? What do you think? I think it's the best idea in the whole world, she whispered excitedly. We're already a family. It just needs to be official. That's right, sweetie, June sighed, satisfied. I love you, Daddy, and I love Tessa too. I love you all too. Harrison went downstairs slowly, savoring that moment of peace. The house was filled with a cozy silence, but it was no longer the empty silence of before. It was a full silence, full of life, of love, of family. Tessa was in the living room, sitting on the sofa with a thick education textbook open on her lap and several sheets of notes scattered around. Her hair was up in a messy bun, and she was wearing the reading glasses she had bought the week before. She looked even more beautiful with glasses, Harrison thought, watching her frown in concentration. So how are the studies going? He asked, sitting down next to her. They're tough, Tessa laughed, closing the book and taking off her glasses. It's been so long since I've studied seriously that my brain feels rusty. It took me 2 hours today to understand a concept about child cognitive development. But are you enjoying it? The smile that spread across her face was more than enough of an answer. I'm loving it, Harrison. Seriously. It's like a part of me that has been dead for years has come back to life. She organized the papers into a neat pile. Every class is a new discovery. Every theory makes me think of the girls, of how I can be better with them. Tessa paused, looking at her hands. Thank you, Harrison, again, for giving me this opportunity, for believing in me when I no longer believed in myself. You don't have to thank me. It was the least I could do after everything you've done for us. It wasn't the least, she said, looking directly at him. It was extraordinary. You've completely changed my life. Tessa was silent for a moment, nervously fiddling with her pen, a habit Harrison had learned to recognize. Sometimes I still can't believe all of this is happening. College, this family, you... She paused. It feels like a dream. I'm afraid I'll wake up and find out none of it is real. Harrison watched her delicate profile in the soft light of the room. Tessa was different since she had started studying. There was a renewed energy in her, a growing confidence that wasn't there before. Tessa, he said, his voice more serious. Yes, can I talk to you about something important? She turned completely towards him, a little worried by his solemn tone. Of course, what is it? Harrison took a deep breath. He had rehearsed this conversation in his head for weeks, but now the words seemed too small. It's time for us to move forward, he began. Tessa blinked, confused. What do you mean? Move forward to where? The two of us. This situation we've created, this invisible line we've been pretending exists. It's time to talk about it for real. The silence that followed was tense. Tessa placed her pen on the sofa and waited. How about we start over together? Harrison asked, looking directly into her brown eyes. For real, this time. Start over how? As us, as a couple, as a complete family, as people who love each other and aren't afraid to admit it. The words came out all at once, and Harrison felt as if he had jumped off a cliff. Harrison, let me finish, he said, leaning forward, taking her hands. The girls already like you. More than that, they love you like a mother. And you've awakened something in me that I haven't felt in a long time, something I thought had died with Anna. Tessa was very still, but tears were forming in her eyes. You made me a better father, Harrison continued, his voice growing more intense. A better person. You taught me that working too much isn't love. Being present is love. You taught me that family isn't about blood, it's about choice, about showing up every day. You taught me that it's possible to love again, even when you think your heart has no more room. Tears streamed down Tessa's face. I know it's complicated, Harrison admitted. I know it all started weird, with you being the cleaner and me the boss. I know there's the age difference, the social status difference, all the things the world will want to judge. But none of that matters to me. What matters is that you make this house a real home. You make the girls smile like they haven't smiled in years. You make me want to be the best man I can be. Harrison squeezed her hands. I'm not asking you to marry me tomorrow. I'm not asking you to change everything at once. I'm just asking for a real chance. A chance for us to try to be a real, official family without pretending we're just friends anymore. Tessa closed her eyes, the tears continuing to fall. Harrison, I love you, he said simply, with all the honesty he had. I love the way you laugh at the girls, bad jokes as if they're the funniest things in the world. I love the way you hum softly while you cook. I love the way you look at me as if I'm a hero, even when I don't feel like one. Tessa opened her eyes and looked at him. You are a hero. At least to the girls, and to me. I'm better with you, I'm whole with you. The silence returned, but now it was different, filled with beautiful possibilities. I love you too, Tessa said finally, her voice just a whisper. I've loved you since I don't know exactly when. Maybe since that first day at the park, when you went down the slide just to make the girls laugh. Harrison smiled, remembering. So, will you try? Will you build this with me? Yes, she said, more tears streaming down her face, but now they were tears of joy. Yes, let's try. Let's start over together, for real. They sat there for a long moment, hands intertwined, looking at each other. Harrison wanted to kiss her, but something held him back. It wasn't the time yet. There was plenty of time for that. For now, the understanding was enough. The choice. The conscious decision that they would build this together. Slowly. With love. The girls are going to be ecstatic when they find out, Tessa laughed softly. They already know, I think. They were just waiting for us to figure it out. Kids are smart like that, more honest than adults. Harrison laughed too. Much smarter than us. They talked until almost midnight that Friday, about expectations and fears, about how they would make it work. About the future, the possibility of Tessa officially moving in, about marriage maybe one day, about the family they already were and the family they could become. When Tessa finally went home, it was still too early for her to sleep there. Harrison stayed up a little longer, looking out the living room window. Outside, the city slept under a starry sky. But inside his house, something new was officially being born. 3 weeks later, on a sunny Saturday morning, Harrison was having coffee when Hazel came running down the stairs, still in her pajamas. "Daddy, Daddy, I made a new drawing," she shouted, nearly tripping on the stairs. She was holding a sheet of white paper, her blue eyes shining with excitement. "Here's, let me see, sweetie." Hazel proudly held out the drawing. It was similar to the others, but there was something different. 4 figures holding hands. Her, June, Tessa, and Harrison, all with huge smiles drawn on their faces. But this time, there were more details. A big house behind them, colorful flowers, and in the top corner, a giant yellow sun, also smiling. "How beautiful, Hazel, tell me about it." "Our family," she said, as if it were obvious. "Now we're a real family, not just a pretend one." Just then, Tessa came in through the back door. She had arrived early to help with weekend breakfast. June came down the stairs too, still in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "Tessa, look at my drawing," Hazel shouted, running to show her. Tessa took the paper and examined it carefully, that small, genuine smile spreading across her face until it was radiant. "It's perfect, my love, the most beautiful one I've ever seen." "Now we're a family," Hazel repeated, clinging to Tessa's waist. "We've always been a family," June said, joining the hug. "It's just official now. Daddy and Tessa already talked about it." Harrison approached the 3 women in his life, looking at the drawing over the girls' heads, feeling his heart overflow. "The complete Cole family," he said softly. Tessa looked at him over the blonde heads, and Harrison saw everything he needed to see in her brown eyes. Unconditional love, deep gratitude, bright hope, a future full of possibilities. He reached out his hand and she intertwined her fingers with his without hesitation. "We always were," he said softly, just for her to hear. "We just didn't know it." Tessa smiled, not that small, careful smile from before, but a full, radiant smile, full of pure joy. "Now we know." Harrison looked around the sunny kitchen. June was clinging to Tessa's leg. already asking to help make Saturday pancakes. Hazel was proudly sticking the new drawing on the fridge next to all the others. Tessa was laughing at something June had said, her loose hair falling over her shoulders. The house was completely full of happy voices, spontaneous laughter, vibrant life, full of unconditional love. Harrison Cole had lost a wife too young and had almost lost his daughters too, drowning in work and loneliness. But he had found something he didn't know he was looking for. He had found a real second chance, a new family built on conscious choices, a new, mature and deep love. He had found Tessa Ray, and together, with patience and care, they had built something beautiful and lasting, a family that chose to love each other every day, a family born not of chance or blood, but of constant care, of invested time, of the daily decision to show up, to be present, to love without reservations. It was an imperfect, patched-up family, different from what any of them had planned, but it was theirs, and it was, finally, complete. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like, because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.